But before we do that, I'm excited to have Ron in studio with the Range St. Louis West. Ron, thanks for coming in.
No, thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here.
An excuse to not be at work. So how could I pass this?
This is work. This is important business. So I came across this story, and the headline is "Car Jackings just won't stop. How do you protect yourself while pumping gas?" Now, when I saw that jumped off the page for me because in 2012, and I know it was 2012 because I was pregnant. I was 7.5 months pregnant. I was leaving work. We used to work at Union Station, and I went to get gas. There's a unmanned gas station right by the last on-ramp to get on to cross the Poplar Street Bridge in Illinois. And I went there. It was about 4:15 in the afternoon. It was April. There had been a day game at Busch Stadium. People were flooding out of the stadium. There's people everywhere. In the middle of the day, I'm pumping gas. And while I'm pumping the gas, there's a car that pulls up on the other side of the pump from me, facing the opposite direction. We're using the same pump. And it's two men. And the one man gets up. He walks around the back of my car where I'm pumping. I was pumping on the passenger side. And he says, "Hey, are there any of those windshield washer things here?" I said, "Yeah, I think there's one over there." So he goes, "Thanks." So he walks over there. He gets the washer thing. I'm still pumping gas. I'm about done pumping gas. And when he comes back, instead of going back the way he had gone to the washer thing, he made a turn and started to go past my driver's side door. I thought he was going to try to wash the windshield of my car and then hassle me for money.
Guy. Yeah.
Well, I thought there was going to be a hustle in there somewhere. And so I started to pull the pump out of the car. And mind you, it was an April day, perfect baseball weather, sky as blue as can be. Roll your windows down for the first time in the springtime and, soak in the fresh air type of day. I had the windows down. I didn't have my keys in the car. I had them in the cup holder next to my ignition. And as he approaches my windshield to do what I thought he was going to do, which is clean my windshield, he gets in my car and starts looking for the keys, fumbles for the keys to steal my car. Now, I am 7.5 months pregnant. The driver's side window and the passenger side window were both down. And 7.5 months pregnant, I had pulled the pump out of my car, and I go to the passenger side window, and I'm like screaming at him, "Get out of my car, get out of my car," just over and over and over again. And it occurred to me, to me, this happened for 15 minutes. It was probably less than 15 seconds. But as I'm screaming at him, I was leaning into my car, just screaming at him. I hadn't reached in, I hadn't done anything, but I was leaning into the window, screaming trying to make as big of a scene as I could, and being shocked that this was happening at the same time. And then I realized I'm putting myself partially in this car, and it occurred to me that there was a second man. And here I am, 7.5 months pregnant, and I stepped back, 3 steps back from the car, and I turned around, and that car had started to drive away, and then he drove away. It was a newer car. I had my purse, which had my wallet, which had all my personal information in there, my cell phone, my a very nice DSLR camera that I had purchased. My son had been a ring bearer in a wedding the weekend before, and he was 2.5. Those pictures all on that camera. My MacBook that belonged to work was in that car, and I just stood in the gas station parking lot and watched it drive away. Now, nobody pulled a gun on me. Nobody forced me out of the car, ripped me out of the car, put their hands on me or anything. And the detectives, as they were covering this case, they're like, "Well, that's not actually a carjacking." I don't know if they considered it a robbery or burglary because there was no physical contact or what the specifics of it were. They said that it's not technically a carjacking. I still say I was carjacked. It sure felt like being carjacked to me.
Oh, absolutely.
But the thing about that always makes me a little uneasy, and I've told my daughter, who's now 6, I said, "I think you saved my life that day," because I'm a pretty precocious person from time to time, and I thought I was going to get that guy out of my car by yelling at him. And my purse was right there, my phone was right there. I could have reached in and got it. Had I reached in there, I don't know what would have happened next. I can only assume that somebody who is going to rob somebody of their vehicle is probably carrying a gun. I don't think they would go into that scenario without feeling like they might have to shoot back, let alone shoot first. And so when I saw this story come across here, this year there have been more than 300 carjackings in St. Louis. That breaks my heart because that day still haunts me. I still have
Sure.
very much so altered the way I do a lot of things because of that day. And the idea here, they list a few things that you should be able to do to protect yourself. It says things like, think about where you're going to fill up your gas tank. Like I was at an unmanned gas station. Go somewhere that offers safety, somewhere that has bright lights, security cameras. Pick the pump closest to the front door, somewhere where you can be visible. When you're filling up, keep your finger on your car's panic button. A honking horn draws a lot of attention. Here's the thing. This happened to me at 4:15 in the afternoon when there were people all over the place, and I was making a scene, and it still happened to me. A lot of times, we politically we'll talk about guns on this show, but this exactly is why we need to be able to protect ourselves. And this is what you guys do at the Range St. Louis West every day is equip people to do so.
It is, and you know, first of all, it upsets me that you had to go through that. But the truth is that there have been, there are now, and there will continue to be predators who are going to look for opportunities to take things that don't belong to them that somebody else worked for. And in your case, it sounds to me like this was, in the case that you were in, these guys were trolling. They were looking for a target of opportunity.
Oh, I had to have looked like the most fresh bait.
Yes. And so there are some things that we could learn specifically from your case. Number one, if you're getting out of your car, the keys should be in your hand and the door should be locked.
And they are now.
And the windows are up, right?
That happens now,
right?
And I say learn from my tough lesson.
So the other thing is when people, I say this and struggle when I say this because I'm a big believer in the nicer we are to those that are around us, the better the world is going to be that we live in. One of my biggest problems is when I hold a door open for somebody at the gas station and they just walk out and don't say anything to me. That bothers me.
Yeah.
But I'll still hold the door open.
Something nice
right?
for you. Yeah.
So that being said, these perpetrators, these predators will use that desire to be nice to one another against you. This gentleman did exactly that, had a conversation with you, appeared to be non-threatening, looked for his opportunity to get what he wanted and took it.
That's exactly right.
Exactly right. So that being said, I'm not saying that we don't have to be nice, but I think that we need to be less naive about what is going on around us. Always be aware that there is a threat or could possibly be a threat anywhere around you at any time. Yes, we sell firearms, and yes, we believe in the right to conceal and carry, but I am also a big believer in I don't ever want to have to do that. And so where that all starts is with what we call situational awareness. And as much as I love my cell phone, it is the worst thing that has happened to us from a situational awareness standpoint because it creates victims. What I would call for a perpetrator, the bad guy, is a target-rich environment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've said this before. We took our daughter to college a couple of years ago where I'm on campus sitting outside while they're in the bookstore. And I probably saw 50, 60, 100 students walk by, and maybe 3 of them were actually watching where they were going. Okay?
That's true. I mean, I'm guilty of that as much as
and we all are.
person.
But that tool, that device can distract us not just when we're approaching our vehicles or our houses, but while we're in them. We have seen numerous times that these I can use bad words on the radio. No, I'll use less bad words. These oxygen wasters are going to look that target of opportunity when you're in the car is prime for them because the car's running. It's in a position to move. If they can get you out of that car, they now have control over something that they can disappear with quickly. And we see them doing this too. On Washington Avenue, a pregnant woman killed for her car. A woman killed in front of her 3 children in her front yard here in St. Louis for her car. A retired police officer shot and killed for his car. This is not just a St. Louis epidemic. This is a countrywide epidemic, this carjacking situation. So there are always going to be basic things that you can do. And number one is you have to be aware of your environment and make contact with your environment. Don't be afraid to look at someone and make that eye contact. And for me, I do it to be nice. Hey, how are you? Hey, good morning. How you doing? I'm not staring them down. I'm not looking them up and down, but I'm making sure that they understand that I see them and I'm aware of them. I'm always looking for opportunities if something bad were to happen, is especially if I'm in a building, where are the exits, right? We learn that in school. If there's a fire, how are you going to get out, right? That should be a same thought process when we're in our car, meaning there are certain things when I'm driving that I try to avoid. I don't like the middle lane at a stoplight. Why? I am boxed in. I have 0 options. I like right or left lanes. I like to stop with at least a car's length of distance between me and the car in front of me. I like to drive with my doors locked and the phone off, if at all possible, not always possible. And again, working my mirrors and making sure that I'm aware of what's going on around me and giving myself an exit strategy should I need it. You know, carrying a firearm is just a small part of the toolkit. And again, I'm a big believer in it.
And it's not for everybody. But
it's not for everybody. But there are always going to be alternatives to that firearm. Pepper gels and maces are fantastic.
I still carry the stick you guys gave me.
That Kubotan is a great
And when
tool.
I walk, and if I'm walking anywhere, I carry my keys. I carry that thing ready. I don't.
Yep.
It's one of those things. Like, I hope that if something happens, I know what to do with it. I think I will. You
well,
guys
come
showed
see
me.
us
Yeah, you
and
guys showed me some things
solve that.
that can be done with it. But just being cognizant of
you have to be. I don't call it just situationally aware. I call it actively involved. You need to be involved in your environment. Not trying to avoid it by staying in a phone, not trying to avoid it by staying in a conversation, but being actively involved in your environment.
Well, what I want to do is, and I hope this is okay. I'm sure it is, but I hope it's okay because I'm just taking the liberty here. But I want to encourage, especially if there are men don't see the world the way women do. Like I was talking with our boss, our program director. He was talking about walking down the street to go get a drink or something at the gas station. I'm like, I would never do that by myself. I just wouldn't. I don't care what time of day it is. Yep. I would not
makes me sad, but you're right.
But I just, it's not worth it to me. But so men and women see the world differently. I think there are probably a lot of men hearing this conversation right now that wish that they're the women in their life, maybe it's their daughters, maybe it's their granddaughters, maybe it's their wives, are in situations, or maybe they work in a metropolis, or maybe they are home, maybe the husband travels, or maybe the woman travels. This is I think it would be a really cool gift to get for Christmas, to get the opportunity to come to some of these training classes that you have at the range, just to test it out. It's like taking a car on a test drive. If you've never fired a handgun before, the rangestl.com is where you go to check out all the classes. But when you go to the range, you get to see if you like it. That is the right way to go about this. Not to just like hand somebody a gun and be like, well, in case you need it, here's what you do. You do this, that, and the other. Right. Go learn. It's fun, first of all, to be educated in that way, and it gives you a great amount of confidence. But if you're considering educating yourself, or if you think that there's somebody in your life that would benefit from this, consider this Christmas season as an opportunity to check it out. Go to the range, St. Louis West in Baldwin, and talk to them and see. They can come in and explain to you the situation. I've got a daughter. She's going to college. She just got her own apartment.
We've got curriculum from that and tools that she can put to work right away.
And if you're somebody who's a collector and just wants to expose yourself to more and more and get better and better,
come hang out.
You
with
got
us.
A few of those guys there too. I think, from what I understand, it's the best training staff around. Well, Ron, thanks so much for coming in today.
Hey, my pleasure.
We appreciate your insight.
Come see us. We're looking forward to it.
I'm gonna come do one of those Girls with Guns classes. I can't wait to do that.
Those are awesome.
Katie and I keep going. When are we doing that? What is our schedules? We're going to make that happen.
So fun.
Yes. All right. It's therangestl.com on the website. Go check it out and see what you got there. And also, there's this thing too.